infinity and beyond!
It's hard to believe it's already been a decade of Marvel films. A third of my life.
All right. So, welcome to To Infinity War and Beyond, our Marvel podcast here at Better Multimedia. In the coming weeks, we'll be looking back at the last 10 years of the MCU. It's kind of crazy. Talk about every Marvel Cinematic Universe film up to this point, all 18 of them. We'll be going over the films, like our personal feelings about them, as well as how we think that they'll factor into what's supposed to be like the magnum opus so far of Marvel films, Infinity War, and even the films that'll come after that. So on today's episode, we'll be starting out slow, and we'll be talking about the first three Marvel Cinematic Universe films: Iron Man 1, Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2. I'm your host, Danny, and I'm joined here by Jonny. You can speak.
Thank you.
I hope he doesn't sound like that. All right, so first off, one of the things that kind of made me want to talk about this is recently in an interview, two of the heads of Marvel Studios, well, the director of Infinity War, or one of them, because there's two directors, Joe Russo said the following: every Marvel film since the first Iron Man, which was 10 years ago, will have a narrative thread in Infinity War and Avengers 4, which is kind of qualifying that anything that doesn't have, isn't factored into Infinity War might be in the next one. But then Kevin Feige, who's famous for saying more than he should, said, with Infinity War, we're paying off every little thread and every single tease that we've had in what will be 18 films prior to Infinity War, which pretty much means every single thing that has never been continued from the previous 18 films will be assessed in Infinity War, which is a lot of things.
It'll be capitalized on, you mean?
And as we review the movies, and we're going to be keeping a tally of every single loose thread and hanging chad, so to speak.
All right.
So as we go forward in the next 6 episodes, we're going to be covering 3 movies per episode, and so by then we'll be all caught up in time for Infinity War. We're going to go see that, and then at which point we'll post a formal review of that, and kind of have a Deadpool, so to speak, of what was actually carried out on and what wasn't, and so forth.
A Deadpool, like a discussion.
Yeah, not like Ryan Reynolds.
Kind of raises an interesting question, actually. Does the Deadpool film fit into the MCU or no?
Fox doesn't officially belong to them yet.
Okay. So no.
So no.
Not technically.
But in spring of 2019, it might.
Mm-hmm. So is this just any film that had a Marvel underneath its name? Like Marvel's Captain America?
Yeah, it's
Marvel's
Iron Man until...
Yeah.
No. So fun fact, Iron Man 1 was the first film completely funded by Marvel. So it wasn't funded by Paramount. It was distributed by Paramount, but it was funded entirely by Marvel in-house so that they could try to grow to the ridiculous Goliath they are of making shit, which, I mean, Disney buying them helped a lot, I'm sure. But so they fronted all the money themselves to make that movie. The first movie, of course, was Iron Man, which, did you see that in theaters back in the day? I did.
No. I am pretty sure I saw it on DVD first.
Actually, they should have released it 10 years to the day that...
A third of my life ago.
Right. You're old. No, but what's actually funny is I think the original release date for Infinity War was May 8th, which so would have been 10 years to the day that Iron Man came out, but they switched it because they were scared off by Deadpool. I think comes out the week after, and then Han Solo comes out 2 weeks after. They probably thought they were going to cannibalize their own movie.
I'm sure it's a rational thought.
So, how do you feel about Iron Man as a movie?
I honestly rewatched it recently, and I still think it holds up really well. I mean, it was their foray into the film franchise, and they had to make a really strong stepping stone to continue the rest of the series on. So they didn't pull any punches, and they really kind of laid the groundwork as far as tone of their films. You know, it's probably the most realistic thematically.
Right, yeah.
Because like nowadays, all these movies, they kind of branch off into fantasy a lot more than Iron Man did. Iron Man played more by the rules of reality with the, while, dressed up in the Marvel superhero suit, I guess.
Right.
The most believable, you might say.
Right. And it is funny watching it because you look back at how normal that movie is, and it's not boring, obviously. But when you go back and see, like, the craziest thing in that movie is, like, the minute and a half long fight between him and Obadiah at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, oh, that's so crazy. And then now he's fighting,
That's
like,
kind of how,
and deities and stuff.
Well, that's kind of how the series started off, though, is that, they had, like, kind of one pivotal moment at the end of each film that they blew their wad on. But as they made more money, it basically became nonstop thrill rides.
And in his defense, Jon Favreau had never directed an action movie before.
Mm.
He directed Zathura, and he starred in Swingers.
Your money, baby. You just don't know it.
It's the most action he ever got was in Swingers.
I still haven't seen Zathura. I don't know.
I haven't either. It's just Space Jumanji, isn't it?
In
a board game that comes
pretty
to life,
much,
is that just Space Jumanji?
I guess I am under that impression.
So I like Iron Man. It's good. It's aged pretty well. I haven't watched it terribly recently. I should have watched it in preparation for this, but I'm trying to go off of, like, natural memories and stuff, and not try to, because I was actually gonna rewatch all of the Marvel movies leading up to Infinity War, but I couldn't really because Black Panther's not out yet.
Right.
And then I don't know. I wanted it to be more of a naturally occurring thing.
I mean, we both saw Black Panther of enough time to be able to have a
and we just saw Thor too.
Yeah. So we're all caught up.
The first Iron Man is probably the only movie on this entire list that doesn't have something that was left hanging or hasn't been assessed previously. So that's a fun fact. Because the only thing that was teased is Nick Fury showing up, which obviously has been done to death since then. So the movie opened in May 8th, 2008. It made $585 million at the box office on a budget of $140. Which when you look at every single Marvel movie making $1 billion now, it seems like very little money. In fact, they probably classify that as a bomb nowadays.
Right. Well, at that point in time, they didn't really know what to expect, right?
But they were probably happy to make their money back.
Oh, yeah. What was the budget on it?
$140 million? So
it tripled its budget, basically?
Yeah. But that's nowadays, when their budgets are they pretty much do the same business because they cost $260 million and they make $1 billion. But yeah, there's nothing needs to be explained from this movie, except for the facial surgery Rhodey got in between movies because he looks completely different the next time we see him.
Well, it's because the Iron Man suit responds to people's facial recognition. And that's why at the end of the movie says next time, because he knew he couldn't fly it in his current facial construct.
Don Cheadle was already...
he had already been programmed for Cheadle mode.
Poor Cheadle.
Poor Howard. Mr. Terrence Howard was unable to fly.
Yeah, he's still successful. He's on that show that everybody watches.
Yeah, Empire.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
What's the difference between Empire and Power again?
I don't know.
They're both about music, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or is Power, he's a club owner? I don't know. I don't watch either. I've been told to watch both. So Iron Man, without saying, there's not too much specifics to go into.
Because it literally ends with Nick Fury finding him and being like, I'm starting a club, and you're in, kind of thing.
You won't see me for another 2 years. Apparently he was played by Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that covers Iron Man 1. We're going to move on to the Incredible Hulk. So Hulk...
Now, is this the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Not Ang Lee's.
No.
Incredible
So this
Hulk.
movie was fortunate enough to be preceded by Ang Lee's Hulk, starring Eric Bana, which had a better video game than it was a movie.
Yeah.
Which probably didn't help its case trying to win over audiences. So it's got the distinction of being the only film to feature Edward Norton, as we'll get into why he was let go later. But it opened just a month after Iron Man, in June 13th, 2008, which probably wasn't a great idea because I'm sure Iron Man was still making money at the time, which probably contributed to the fact that... so we just went over what Iron Man made. Now, Hulk only made $263 million.
What was the budget?
Worldwide.
Worldwide?
Yes. On a budget of $150. So it didn't even double its budget.
Did you look up the numbers for what Ang Lee's Hulk did?
No, I didn't actually.
I'd be interested to know.
I'll put it up on
in
the video.
Better.
But I think it probably did better. Even in $2004, adjusted for inflation, it probably did better.
Oh, was it really 2004 when that came
Mm-hmm.
out?
But in the grand scheme of things, that was only 4 years before.
That's true.
But so people weren't against rebooting things quickly back then either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Spider-Man's been rebooted in my lifetime 3 times, but since, yeah, it's crazy. So, have you seen the Hulk recently?
No, I honestly only think I've seen it once, but I feel like I didn't really need to see it again because it was pretty cut and dry plot-wise.
Yeah, it's pretty much an action movie. It's not.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same exact plot as Ang Lee's Hulk, essentially.
Well, the Hulk TV show. And
yeah, you know,
every iteration.
General Ross doesn't like Eric Banner. Eric Banner's the Hulk. David. He doesn't
Bruce
like
Banner.
Bruce Banner.
Jesus
Sorry,
Christ.
I was thinking David Banner from the TV show. I apologize. Right. But he doesn't like him because he's dating his daughter, but he also hates the Hulk because he's a weapon of mass destruction. He wants to take out the Hulk. Tim Roth gets his ass kicked a couple of times in it. I remember really...
Tim Roth is very short.
Yes, I remember really enjoying the opening sequence that took place in Brazil, I believe.
Rio.
And I thought it was really unique that they didn't feel the need to explain how we got... Like, it almost felt like a sequel to Ang Lee's movie without paying any homage to it. And even the casting of William Hurt as Ross...
Probably the best thing that movie did.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Edward Norton a lot, but...
Yeah, but he was very, like, eerily similar to the actor who played him in the Ang Lee version too.
Yeah, Sam Elliott there.
Sam Elliott, yeah. It was
I think
almost
he was
like
better. Sam Elliott's just
Sam Elliott's very well, not that, you know,
No,
not that William Hurt's got a lot of range.
I think he really did good in that movie.
Yeah, no, he did. But like, I feel like they were really trying to replace everybody with as similar a character as it possibly could.
Yeah, like because even Jennifer Connelly got swapped out for Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
Which isn't amazingly. They're both kind of like tall, tough
Brunette.
ladies.
Yeah.
Brunette ladies. But so the reason it might have felt like a TV series is because there was reportedly 75 minutes cut from that movie.
Oh.
The director who previously, Louis Leterrier, and Edward Norton both argued with Universal because they wanted the movie to be like 2.5 hours long. It ended up being, I think, under 2 hours. So
yeah, it was actually one of the shorter ones. I think.
and they
maybe even an hour
exponentially
45.
longer. Right, it was like an hour 50ish, I think, something like that, like just under 2 hours. But its longest form apparently was like 3 something, which I find to be insane because I don't know if any Marvel movie could.
Maybe they cut out his entire backstory.
Yeah, apparently the credits was pretty much like a lot of the time that was cut out. They just made the whole origin story, which apparently they filmed in full. They just made it the credit scene.
Yeah.
Which probably counts for like an hour.
They were probably thinking, well, it's only been 4 years since the last one. Everybody already remembers how
And they're
this
not
happened.
wrong either. But
although I think to their, like, you know, to their chagrin, it probably would have helped separate the movies more if they did tell the story again, because then it would have solidified the fact that it's not in the same universe.
I think it's the opposite though, because if you have to tell the same story again, it's going to make people think of the previous version that much more. Like, you look at Spider-Man. So Spider-Man...
I just mean like an abbreviated version, you know.
Sure, but you look at, like, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, okay, in 2002. Now, 10 years later, they do Amazing Spider-Man. And they do the exact, like, beat for beat, the exact same origin story. And all it does is make people compare it to
not the exact same. I mean... Peter's parents weren't spies in the original one.
Yeah, and we were okay with that. Well, we didn't know about his parents in the original one because they weren't important. And they still aren't. They just talked about them more.
They've actually never been important, much like Ray's parents.
Yeah, well, let's see what J.J. Abrams has to say about that. He's not too thrilled.
Yeah.
Let's not start talking about that.
Yeah.
But,
That's another podcast.
Oh, no. Imagine if we just had that. It was like
It
was like Last Jedi Anonymous, when it's just like people come in and they just talk about how it ruined their lives.
Have a town hall.
Right.
Lynch Last Jedi.
David Hogg comes out.
No. So,
I like the Hulk a lot. It's a solid action movie. I don't really think it's too much more than that. Edward Norton probably gives a better performance than a comic book movie deserves, because he takes it way too seriously, which is one of the reasons he was ejected from being the Hulk again, is because he is very difficult to work with, famously.
Yeah, I'm just
and they didn't think he'd work well in a group environment when they had to film a lot of stuff very quickly.
What it really was is they didn't think that him and Robert
Jr.
Downey Jr. could be in the same room together.
Well, I can't imagine them. I can't imagine them liking each other. Can you? I mean, in the movie, they don't. Those two versions of the characters would not gel.
No, I don't think so.
Which they should have thought about before they filmed.
Yeah.
This one.
What's his?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo has a much more placid, relaxed demeanor.
Which is really what the character's supposed to be.
Yeah, because it's an extreme contrast of the Hulk, you know.
Right.
But Edward Norton's character was a little too driven, I thought, you know.
Yeah, he was very intense.
And he also was very snarky, you know, about his situation, I think.
Right. There are arguments that this movie's been ejected from canon by a lot of people, but Marvel says it hasn't, and there's multiple references besides just, I mean, Ross comes back, obviously, in Civil War. They mention him fighting, like, destroying Harlem in the Avengers, which happened, which is awkward when they have a new actor, like, talking about something another actor is the same character did. It's really strange, but
yeah,
it's one of those funny things that happens.
There are a couple of inconsistencies, though, is that he totally forgot about Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, and Liv Tyler. Jennifer Connelly.
Right, Liv Tyler. He totally forgot about Liv Tyler's character. And
kind of forgot everything.
And the fact that, I mean, the Hulk was an Avenger, and, like, Ross seemed to have little, if no, disdain for that fact when interfacing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and talking about it. Like, there was almost, like, impersonal, you know?
Right.
You know, he obviously was annoyed by and this is all from Captain America, Civil War.
Right.
He was obviously annoyed by the mess in New York and all that stuff, and, you know, the flagrant lack of attention spent on Thor and, like, you know, reining him in, but, like, he didn't, like, make any special moves to, like, you know, pick on Banner. I always thought that was kind of unusual.
Yeah, especially since he kind of hates it. Well, I guess at the end of the Incredible Hulk, though, he kind of likes him because he saves his ass like 3 times.
I guess so.
And his daughter.
Yeah.
But I don't like that they don't, like, because the movie obviously never got a sequel. The Hulk never really got a follow-up in any way, shape, or form to that movie because he's been, obviously now he's paired up with Scarlet Witch, or not Scarlet Witch, Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlet, yeah. The Black Widow.
Out of nowhere, which is fine, but, so it'd be funny if Liv Tyler shows up and, like, starts asking him why he's hanging around.
Maybe she'll become She-Hulk.
Right. Well,
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
See, that's what they probably would have done if they.
I had an idea for a Hulk sequel that would have been good. That would have involved.
Who was the teaser at the end of the Incredible Hulk? Was it the Mastermind?
It was or
the leader.
So moving on to the loose threads that Infinity War or Avengers 4 has to answer for. So, post-credit sequence was just Stark talking to Ross, which makes no sense because why would he go to Ross about the Hulk? Because like Ross has like any power to rein in the Hulk. But
right.
I guess it's all they could do.
Maybe it's because he was all over the headlines. Or something.
It was just funny. So it'd be nice. So loose threads, number 1. So Betty Ross has completely disappeared from everything ever. He doesn't even mention her in any of the follow-up movies. Ever.
Not even in his Ruffalo.
William Hurt doesn't mention his daughter.
In his Ruffalo kind of tone, like, oh, Betty.
Oh, man.
Oh, I left her in Harlem.
What if they just go back in special edition, The Incredible Hulk, and just make it with Mark Ruffalo?
Maybe.
George Lucas comes in. So it'd be nice to see her come back, even if it's, I don't know, her dead body. Like,
see, that would have been a good way to tie it all in Civil War would be when Ross shows up to like harass them if she was there too, and like Ruffalo was kind of ducking around corners the entire time.
Yeah, but he's not even in that.
Well, right, but like,
if he was though.
Yeah, because at that point he's in space. He already escaped.
Right.
He escaped. All right, so more loose threads. Anything?
Yeah. So the Abomination's alive at the end of that movie.
Well, that's right, because they lock him up, right?
Yeah, and the only reference to that we get is in the short. I don't know if you watch any of the DVD stuff, but they have shorts on the DVDs on some of them. And Thor had a short where Phil Coulson is like it's on his way to find Thor's hammer or whatever, which the continuity is.
So is the Incredible Hulk really the second film in the series?
Yeah. Right. But so in the short, they're actually talking about recruiting the Abomination for the Avengers, but then they decided it'd be a better idea to use the Hulk or whatever.
They think the Abomination would be better because he's got military training.
Because he's got military training and whatever.
Yeah, but he can't even turn
Except
back.
the fact that he's insane and tried to kill everybody.
Yeah, you know. But it's easier just
so it'd be nice to see him come back in Infinity War. It wouldn't be hard to do. He's just another strong, muscular character to toss around.
Well, what I wonder it's
not hard to facilitate
in Civil War when they lock up the Decker or whatever his name was that killed the
Zemo?
Zemo.
Right.
I'm the guy who got Zemo. When they locked him up, they should have had zoomed out and had him in a cell with the Abomination and every other bad guy.
Which is probably where they would put him, right?
Obadiah.
On the raft or whatever in the middle of the ocean where he can't go anywhere. Because it's not like he can. I don't think he can swim. He probably weighs too fucking.
Probably wouldn't be able to jump far enough to get away.
No. So it'd be nice to see him come back in Infinity War in some capacity, even if it's just as a throwaway, just one more thing for them to blow up.
If he's like a caged animal that Thanos.
Yeah, if it's just one more thing, because I mean, we'll cover this more when we get to the Avengers. But the Avengers was originally supposed to be, the Abomination and Justin Hammer and Red Skull, pretty much every villain that didn't die, which is none of them really, or Mickey Rourke there.
Yeah.
Was going to be in that.
You can make the argument that
eventually they rewrote it into just being Loki the movie, but
yeah. Because they were going to have Red Skull come back for the Tesseract.
Because and then Tom Hiddleston was flying in space somewhere. He was going to come back, and and then it got rewritten by Joss Whedon into being what it was, which was still a damn good movie. But
although the enemy threat was a little disjointed because you didn't really understand.
Well, it's just Loki until the finale when a portal opened up and he saw alien army. But
him and what's his name there? Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård's character running around. Yeah. Which always kind of gave me Green Lantern vibes a little bit, but.
Yeah, right. Speaking of Green Lantern vibes, so another loose thread for Incredible Hulk is Tim Blake Nelson plays Samuel Stearns, who's pretty much almost an exact effigy of Peter Sarsgaard's character from Green Lantern. Uh-huh. He's just like another disgruntled, wormy dude. But he was supposed to become the leader in the sequel that never happened.
Right, because they show him end with his brain growing.
Right, he gets his knocked in the head or whatever, and then Hulk blood, which is literally the Spock blood of the they use it for everything. So before there was Spider-Man blood and Spock blood for Deus Ex Machinas, there was Hulk blood. So he was supposed to become the leader. He obviously hasn't shown up in any of the TV shows or the movies. So it'd be nice to see him come back. But I don't know how you would justify it at this point.
You just have things come down and they're like, how do you know exactly where we were going to be? He's like, I have an excellent strategist on my side. And then the leader walks out. And you're like, wait, I can't even remember who you are. It's been 10 years since I've seen you.
And Bruce Banner wouldn't even recognize him because he was a different actor.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to see that.
Would he be a different actor or would he be Andy Serkis?
He'd be right. It'd probably be him doing the voice. I don't even know. They'll never. I doubt that they'll ever.
That's why I'll be interested if they really do tie up every loose end because I feel like they've left a lot hanging.
I mean, it's a big statement to say. I just don't know if they will. Because if they're really going to tie everything up, this next one's kind of a joke. But so Ty Burrell from Modern Family, the creepy guy.
Sort of, yeah.
He's in the Hulk. He plays the psychologist or whatever who's dating Betty Ross. It's a whole awkward situation.
Yeah.
But his character, Doc Samson, actually becomes a green-haired, superpowered guy in the comics. So if we get to see Ty Burrell running around with long green hair fighting crime, then we'll know.
Isn't that the guy that the Joker made in the Batman cartoon?
Ty Burrell?
No,
Doc Samson.
No, he ran around with long green hair and then a jungle suit and stuff.
No, I don't know. Oh,
he was called the Lover or something like that.
The guy looked like Blanca.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
But they should have done.
So if they're really serious about covering every loose end, they'll have that happen, which it won't. But
they should have done is made, since he was a psychologist or whatever, they should have made him the guy that was supposed to interview Winter Soldier that Zemo kills, right? Just to tie up that loose end.
You could at least tie it up then.
That would have been funny.
Whenever Zemo's going to come back, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. All in all, Incredible Hulk's a good movie. We're going to move on to Iron Man 2. So, fun fact, Iron Man 2 comes out 2 years after The Incredible Hulk, with nothing in between. So it's a 2-year gap between Marvel movies, which will never happen ever again.
No. You can barely even get a year now.
And it was the only one that year. So it was a 2-year wait for one Marvel movie, which will also never happen again. We're actually getting 3 next year. We got 3 this year. So it's only we'll get to the point when we have 5 in a year, or like 12. It'll be one every month.
So crazy, and they got enough superheroes if they have the budget that they can make.
Right. Well, if they keep on making the money they're making. So, what do you think of the plot of Iron Man 2?
It's pretty cut and dry.
I mean,
Tony
anybody who
Stark's father stole my father's secret. I want my boy. I also want revenge.
Right.
I honestly, and even to this day, I enjoy watching Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
like,
good.
I think it's a solid film.
It's entertaining, if nothing else.
I know Mickey Rourke's a little cringeworthy with some of his acting, but
Yeah,
like
but
I
you
think
know
for
what?
that character, he didn't need to be too dignant. You know.
So for anybody who hasn't seen, Mickey Rourke plays Ivan Vanko, and I call him that because he's not Whiplash. He's Whiplash for a cumulative 4 minutes in the entire movie. He destroys 2 race cars, and then he gets locked up, and then he comes back to get blown up 5 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler.
That was one thing with the Iron Man series that's kind of a trend in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
That it takes no time to dispatch a villain
Right.
once the final fight starts, and that always kind of bothered me.
Yeah, in the first 2 Iron Mans, it's weird because there's not a lot of action in there.
No, well, they try to make him more mental,
Right.
but
Which,
it
in
ends
that
up
movie, when
falling
a guy
kind of
would-
like a little flat at the end when like this guy was giving me all this trouble, but I beat him in a minute.
But
like,
does a psychological villain have any place in a superhero's only ability is wearing a
wearing
battle suit?
a whole bunch of armor and
Right.
has rockets coming out of his fingers.
So you got Don Cheadle replacing Terrence Howard, which I've gotten used to.
I think
I wasn't too hot on it.
I
at the
think
time,
Don
but-
Cheadle's got more range as an actor personally, but that's just my opinion.
I just feel like they
might
had,
not
they had
have-
better chemistry in the first one though. I feel like
Yeah.
Terrence Howard and him, because they're actually
Well, Don
friends.
Cheadle is more of like a
straight
leading
guy.
man, so I
Right.
think he tries to be a little bit more in control of the scene, whereas Terrence Howard was able to. He was in stark contrast of Robert Downey Jr., who is very encapsulating, he kind of squanders the attention in each scene, you know. So it's kind of funny. And it would have been great to have the opportunity for Terrence Howard to get the suit on and be like, you know,
Yeah, 'cause
kind of
that's
grow
like-
as a character,
right.
but then he literally
Never
shrank, shrank
Right, he
into Don
becomes like
Cheadle.
a foot shorter, and
Yeah,
I don't know if he is. That's
but it does have one of the
Anecdotal.
greatest loose end tie-ups of all time with the recasting, where he's like, "It's me, I'm here, get over it," or whatever.
yeah. It's pretty much like telling the audience.
They're like, "Yep, I know, I'm not Terrence Howard, but you'll
it's
just have to
one
deal."
of those awkward steps where they knew they had to like avert confusion because they're like, Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, his best friend. And, like he shows up and then he walks out and they have like everybody like for 2 minutes all they're doing is like introducing him,
Yeah.
and it's like, yep,
Uh-huh.
we're not that stupid.
Yeah, but it is kind of funny though, because it's almost fourth wall breaking to
Yeah.
the point, because they have to explain it away.
Yeah, but even the Hulk didn't get that much. Like they had a much longer gap in between, and the Hulk has a less dramatic re-entrance when they recast.
What was their reasoning for changing the casting from Terrence to Donald?
It depends on who you ask.
Was it?
But monetary was one of them. I think they rather because they renegotiated contracts in between. I think, and Terrence Howard wanted more money, and then Robert Downey Jr. wanted more money, and
they're like, well, we
they
can only
couldn't
pay
do
one
both,
of you.
and they were gonna they could only pay one of them.
They didn't want to go King Solomon on him.
Right. They could only pay one of them, I guess, and they were gonna pay the lead actor, not Terrence Howard.
Yeah. And
Which
Don Cheadle
sucks.
was like, I'll work for anything.
Right. Which sucks though because Oscar winner Don Cheadle, I think, Hotel
Rwanda, yep.
But which sucks though because I think Terrence Howard's one of the people who got him the role, like as Tony Stark, because they were friends and he like got him an interview and stuff. Because he was cast before Robert Downey Jr. was.
Okay.
So he's since been like, he's like, I helped get him that role, and now, like,
Yeah,
shit happens,
but
I guess.
he was kind of a perfect role. Like, I don't know who else they considered for Tony Stark.
Tom Cruise supposedly, but
I
Tom
don't know
Cruise
if that
denies
would've
that.
worked.
I think
I want to be in a movie.
maybe
where
they thought about Tom Cruise.
Is it
They never
wrong?
actually approached him. I don't think though.
Yeah, I can't imagine who with a mustache.
Yeah, he's got kind of a goatee and his Collateral. He's never had a lot of facial hair.
Yeah, but I mean Robert Downey
Well, I
Jr.
mean,
is
you got Last Samurai.
arguably perfect. I mean, he's way more eccentric than Tony Stark ever was in
Right.
history,
and
but
less of an alcoholic so far. Well, I mean, in the movie.
yeah. But Robert Downey Jr.'s got a very unusual filmography leading up to the Marvel series.
He's like Ally McBeal and Chaplin and Zodiac, and then he's at
Charlie Bartlett.
Charlie Bartlett. Was that before?
Yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like, he was just in weird movies. Was he in Natural Born Killers?
No, that's Woody Harrelson.
I know Woody Harrelson's in it.
I don't know if he was in it. He was in Weird Science. That's it.
No.
Playing
Yeah,
himself.
so it's just another one of those examples of, like, casting being kind of strange.
Yeah,
but
so,
it worked out for him, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a billionaire now or something.
Yeah.
His net worth is ridiculous.
I think I'm just because I'm worth $1 billion.
Right. So the best addition in Iron Man 2 was Sam Rockwell as the real villain, who has more screen time and actually is developed as a character.
Yeah. Sam
Justin
Rockwell's
Hammer.
Interesting.
Oh, he just won an Oscar. Did you hear about that?
I can't remember what for.
It was for the Billboard movie there.
Oh, yeah. 3 billboards.
Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, I never heard of it, but I mean, I heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But Sam Rockwell's an interesting character actor.
You've seen Moon? That's a really good movie.
No. But in contrast to Robert Downey Jr., it works because they're both
he's
pretty
like the
eccentric.
repressed guy, and then Robert Downey Jr. was like the extroverted guy.
And who else?
So
and
they have the whole subplot of Tony Stark dying, which really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that all gets kind of washed
he
away.
synthesizes an element, which I have a theory. I had a theory on a little while ago, which doesn't make sense anymore. But yeah. So this one has Scarlett Johansson in it playing Black Widow, with like a completely different hairstyle that she'll never have ever again.
Yep.
And like,
well, because that's before they fleshed out her character, and they were like, well, this is what we kind of want her to look like. But then as movies go on, each character changes a lot.
Yeah, I feel like they get lazier. They're like, just give her Scarlett Johansson's hair. Don't even like make it different.
And the return of Pepper Potts.
Right.
They almost did it. They almost had her for every movie, and then they randomly decide in Civil War that they don't want her.
They didn't get her in Age of Ultron either.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, that was the beginning of the break.
Oh, yeah. And the only reason she's in the Avengers 1 is because Robert Downey Jr. paid for it and said that she had to be in it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you'd excuse that early, not having her in it when they were, like, pretty much married.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would get sick and tired of acting in a certain role forever, but, like, there's a way that you could ceremoniously
I want to say it's
put it
because
away.
she only had one more contractually obligated appearance, and they were saving it for Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Which... If they had any, if they could see the future, they probably would have just used it in the Avengers instead. God, that movie's bad. We'll get to that. So there's once again, so this movie is another. It's like an action movie without action in it because there's like, he attacks him at the race.
Yep.
He gets drunk and fights Rhodey.
Yep.
And there's the finale.
Actually, the whole movie can pretty much be summed up by Tony Stark doing things he's not supposed to be doing.
Tony Stark's midlife crisis.
Yeah. I'm gonna race in this race.
Because
it's my party and I'll brawl if I want to.
Right.
And it's pretty much his whole life getting wrecked because he doesn't ever do the right thing.
Because he thinks he's gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the subtext, but I don't think they really underline it enough with the impending doom of his death.
The impending doom of his death.
Because they write it so easily that it's like it shouldn't have even been on the table. Because if all it took was Nick Fury to inject him with something and say, there you go. But also, now I bought you time so you can do sex machina your illness away.
Tony Stark went to the Admiral Haldo school of not telling anybody he's dying.
Yeah.
It's like
there's just a whole bunch of
He's a multi-billionaire. You telling me that he couldn't pay the smartest people in the world to figure out what was killing him and figure out...
Well, not only that, but see, that would have been a good introduction for the Hulk crossover, where
like have him start testing his blood.
If Banner came in and was like, "I'll see what I can do. Give me a blood sample." But who would he be played
by at that point? Because they didn't.
Terrence Howard.
Yeah, right? Well, they didn't know that Edward Norton wasn't playing him until 20.
Are Hulk dogs in canon? That's all I want to know.
They haven't shown up. No, not yet. Damn it. They could be.
Like, what if there's a movie like Thanos sends down his dogs of war or something like that, and then Thunderbolt, and then everybody looks at him, they're like, oh my god, look at the size of those dogs, and Bruce Banner's just like, I've seen worse. And you're like, he's referring to that movie that's not in canon anymore.
Oh god, that would confuse people. Eric Bana shows up in another dimension.
Yeah.
It'd be awful.
Yeah, so I don't know. I liked Iron Man 2. It had a lot of really cool action scenes in it, but it was very brief.
It did start the timeless Marvel tradition of having the finale be fighting a faceless army of things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Which is
And it's funny
perpetuated every single Marvel
and it's funny
movie
because
almost.
you would think after that first time that he would have never made Ultron. He would have been
Right.
like, oh, I remember this. This didn't work out that well last
Right.
time. It also has a lot of those moments in it where it's like, you know, just close enough before something really terrible
Right.
happens, like with the kid in the Iron Man mask
So, by the way,
and the robot
so,
sees
do you know,
him.
you know about that kid now?
No.
That he's Peter Parker?
Oh, really?
They've decided?
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
So, well, okay, so here's the thing. So,
mean,
according
maybe.
to Homecoming takes place 8 years after the Avengers,
Yeah.
which would put Iron Man 2, say, a year or two
Does
before
it, though?
that.
Like, they're
That's what it
still
says. It
cleaning up
says-
New York City?
No, it says right in the... No, I mean, after that scene, it's 8 years later.
Oh, okay.
So, which means Peter Parker is 15, so he's 8, I guess.
So then why don't they ever...
They haven't said... They've never referred to it in the movie, though. It's just one of those things that they, in interviews, like, yeah, that kid is Peter Parker.
Yeah, but why would you say that? Just it would have been a lot more heartfelt if when Tony Stark shows up, he's like, "Oh my God, you saved my life when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
right.
That's what made me
Yeah,
want to be a hero."
right.
Like that would have been
It's
like,
because-
"Oh."
I think it's because they...
That would have like actually made me go back and be like, "Oh, that's awesome." But
Except it doesn't really make sense.
no, but like don't say it and then not deliver on it.
They probably thought about it after they were already doing the press junket. They're like, man, we should have put that in the movie. Let's just tell everybody.
Yeah, that or they just said it on the spot and then instantly regretted it.
Yeah, so there's an 8-year... So Iron Man 2 didn't make... It's funny because you look back and the box office at a certain point, mainly after the Avengers just blows up on these movies, but it only made $623 million on a $200 million budget. Which, when you compare it to Black Panther making like $1.3 billion on a $140 million budget, like it seems so insignificant at the time, but movies didn't make that kind of money back then.
How much money did this make?
623
million? Is that worldwide or?
Yeah, out of 200.
So it all but
budget. I mean, about tripled its-
quadrupled what
about
the Hulk
tripled.
made.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's not hard. But so fun fact about the time gap, it would explain one of our loose threads, which is Justin Hammer not showing up ever again, despite saying you'll be seeing me again real soon.
Was
at the
he
end of the
arrested?
movie. Yeah, he's arrested at the end of the movie.
Oh, he's in prison.
Oh, but he's like, you'll be seeing me again real soon. The context was in the Avengers that didn't get made the way it was originally going to be made. But he could have served out like a 10-year sentence by now. He could be out, right?
Would have been interesting if Ultron put him to work making him bodies.
Right.
But he was already
They could have done
self-sufficient enough, I guess.
They could have done a whole. If Age of Ultron was more like a. I remember when Brainiac was like holding Lex Luthor to like fix his body. They could have like done that kind of thing with Hammer.
That would have been kind of interesting. If like, oh yeah, Hammer's at his, he just got out of prison, whatever. The guy's trying to go straight, and he's like at his villa, or whatever he's living in, and then there's like a knock on his door, and it's like a 50 Cent situation where Ultron shows up.
Body, and then,
Ultron shows up. I need your help, and he fixes
Danger Will
him.
Robinson.
And then he repays him by blowing up his house, and then you never have to see him again.
Yeah, right.
Until he comes back as the Mandarin third incarnation.
Oh yeah, and by the way, the people who kidnap Iron Man in the first movie, the Ten Rings, headed by in that movie, and I think even credited as the Mandarin, who gets killed in that movie by Jeff Bridges. Subsequent, we'll get back to this when we talk about Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Which
Is
that won't be a fun time.
How do they break this up again? There's different
Because the Mandarin is
phases. Phase one is just these
phase
three
one,
movies.
No, phase one is up until the Avengers, from Iron Man to the Avengers.
Okay. So it's from each movie's end capped. Each phase is end capped by the Avengers.
Except for phase 2 was end capped by Ant-Man for some reason. I can't help but
Was it a
feel-
release schedule thing?
It's usually by year. It's whatever comes out that year.
Huh.
So it would have made sense if Age of Ultron was the end of phase 2, because that's what everybody assumed until they released the phase 2 box set, which has Ant-Man in it, which I think is like half the reason that it's in phase 2. It's like,
Does something
we gotta
really
release this
important
box set,
happen in
and then-
Ant-Man that...
Not yet.
Oh, you think it was like a thing where they wanted to sell Ant-Man?
I think it's like Ant-Man was going to come out on Blu-ray, and they were going to put out the phase 2 box set, and they thought it'd be mixed marketing to separate the two. I think that's why they decided to lump it in.
Huh. I mean, that's possible.
because I mean that's actually the only way I own Ant-Man. I wasn't gonna buy it separately, but it was on the Phase 2 box set, which was totally necessary to buy.
When will Ant-Man and Wasp come out?
August.
Oh, that's right. They are working.
They have a trailer out.
What was she doing the last 4 years? I guess he was incarcerated.
Well, that wasn't
multiple different times.
No, Wasp wasn't. That wasn't that long ago. Because he was probably imprisoned right. No, I mean.
It was the best thing that the Marvel.
The very next movie is Civil War.
The best thing the Marvel series ever did was introduce Michael Douglas as a character,
right.
But then they immediately.
No, I mean the very next movie to Ant-Man is Civil War.
Yeah.
It's right after. So.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird because at the end of Ant-Man, I mean, we'll get into
going on the straight and narrow instantly is like, hey, I'm going to go help that treasonous guy who the government's hunting.
Well, not only that, but how did they recruit him? They just show up in a van. Oh, and we found him. I was like, what do you mean you found him? He was living in the mansion, training to be a superhero. Where'd you find him?
Remember in Ant-Man, he fights Falcon because they break into the Avengers
I know
facility?
that.
That's how he knew where he was.
I know, but it just seems so strange. I mean, we'll talk about this more next time, but it just seems so strange that he would show up in such a way, because at that point he had already technically averted worldwide destruction once. You know? He was sort of on the hero register.
But it's also weird because Hydra still exists in that movie, even though they eradicate the last of Hydra in the intro of Age of Ultron.
Oh, because doesn't Skull and Bones say "Hail Hydra" before he blows up the Wakanda?
No, he's not, because he's working for. No, so it's Civil War. So in Age of Ultron, at the beginning, they're hunting down the last where they find Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. That's the last of Hydra.
Oh, right.
But then in Ant-Man, the people buying the Yellow Jacket suit work for Hydra.
Well, I mean, I guess you can't operate under the assumption that everybody who works for Hydra is there, right?
The problem with that being is that they show them arresting everybody who worked for Hydra at the end of Winter Soldier.
So where's Captain America fill in?
That's right before Avengers. That's at Phase 1.
Because they're he's the first Avenger. You can't have Avengers without the first Avenger.
Yeah, and you put First Avenger in the title because you really wanted people to go see that movie because maybe you thought it wasn't that good.
That'll be a chore talking about that.
I might have to rewatch it.
Captain America and Iron Man 3. It's amazing that the Avengers turned out to be as competent as it was, considering some of the movies that were surrounding it.
I know. I mean, Thor 1 is still one of my favorite movies.
It is, yeah. Franchise. Deceptively simple and very similar to Man of Steel in a lot of ways, but
it's good though. It's I relate it to it's like Kate and Leopold with Thor, because it's like the whole. It's another movie when there's almost no, after he gets banished, there's no supernatural stuff for an hour.
Yeah.
But it's fine because the movie works. But I don't think Marvel can make a movie like that anymore. When it's not
the most supernatural thing is that he's able to carry Stellan Skarsgård.
Right.
So Ever Loose Ends Iron Man 2, I guess. Not really, because they kill Vanko, right?
Yeah, they kill Vanko in a deceptively easy way.
Yeah.
He literally lands, wraps them up, and then they kill him. It's
why I never understood.
There isn't even a final fight.
Well, the final fight makes no sense because they're literally running away from the attack squad of drones or whatever, and the drones are lighting them up the entire time. And the minute they land in that little area, every drone waits for every other drone to land dramatically.
Dramatic reveal.
And then for them to have their little quip and all that stuff and say we'll do back to back, and then they all attack at the same time, and it's kind of like it's a movie thing, yeah. It's just like
Macho bullshit.
Almost shot for shot the Age of Ultron fight where they're defending the bell or whatever it was.
The gearbox thing or whatever. God, that movie's good. So that's pretty much. So I'm gonna run my theory. It's not a theory I believe in anymore. So my theory originally. So Tony Stark makes an element in Iron Man 2. So my original theory was that when he made the element, maybe one of the Infinity Stones was destroyed, so nobody's cared about him or whatever. So when he made the new element, he was recreating the lost Infinity Stone. Mm-hmm. So that somehow it had was a catalyst to universal galactic shit happening or something. It doesn't make any sense anymore, but we all know where the last Infinity Stone really is, right?
Yeah.
In Wakanda.
It's in Wakanda?
Yeah, it's probably the meteorite that struck, right?
Well, I don't know. So the Guardians found one, right?
Yeah. We got one left. That's all we got. It's the soul gem, I think.
There's the mind gem, which was pulled out of Loki's spear.
which is
That's
the
in
Vision's
Vision's
head.
head.
Got the Tesseract.
The Tesseract.
Loki has now.
Yeah, which is
Again.
the Dimensional Stone. I
It's
guess.
the Space Stone, I think.
The Time Stone, which Doctor Strange has.
Got
Whatever.
the Power Stone from Guardians.
Guardians. So there's
Then
only
you have
one left.
there's 6. There's
There's
one for
6.
each knuckle, and then the one in the middle.
Oh.
And then the Ether from Thor 2. That was one.
Oh, really?
The red stone, yeah, because it becomes a gem at the end. And then they give it to Benicio del Toro. So theoretically, Thanos already has that.
Yeah, it would be. So what is it? The Life Stone or whatever?
Soul Gem is the last one, which would make sense because the meteorite strikes Wakanda. We should
Yeah,
talk about
they're
this when
able
we
to
talk about
bring
Black
people
Panther.
back.
But it hits the ground and starts terraforming everything, and instantly, like when you eat the flowers that grew out of it, like you can go like an astral project and see your dead relatives and stuff. It'd make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I guess so.
And they spend so little time talking about the genesis of the meteorite that I feel like it has to be that.
Yeah.
Next time, I have the joy of
Distinct and
discovering
unique pleasure.
Captain America: First Avenger, which is fun. It's funny that Captain America went on to have the 2 best sequels.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because they
It's like they knew they fucked up the first one.
Well, I think they also used movies as
Like linchpins for the rest of the
service to the rest of the Avengers series.
Yeah.
Like, because he's kind of like the cop of the Avengers, you know?
Right.
So whenever something happens that's more toward the overriding
Right.
story, he's the one that's on it, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. Plus,
He's
he's the
the
only
dog
one.
of war.
He's the only one who has any character development left. Because I mean, Tony Stark's done with all of his pretty much.
Yeah.
He's like a father figure too. And
So what's next? We got Captain America: First Avenger, Iron Man 3.
no, Iron Man 3 is in Phase 2. It's the first movie of Phase 2. So next time we got Captain America: First Avenger. We got Thor. And we got Avengers.
Yeah.
And that'll finish up our Phase 1.
All right. Well,
Should be fun.
bombs away.
Yeah. Bombs away like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. And when does Infinity
It
War
bombed.
come out?
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
And we're gonna go see it, and we'll have a review up by either Saturday or that night, maybe.
Okay.
Fun stuff.
All right. Until next time.
Oh yeah.
This is To Infinity War and Beyond. Then when
Until
we
they
see
what if they
Infinity
stop
War,
making them?
after we see Infinity War, we can start speculating about what movies they'll make next.
That's the whole point.
I'm still waiting for that Black Panther / Black Cat
Wait, what?
from Spider-Man
Oh right.
like mashup. I'm pretty sure
Dude,
it's
what if
already
she's
out
from
on
what if she
browsers.
wait a minute. What if they make a Black Cat movie and she's from Wakanda and she like stole the Black Panther's?
See, I would be fine with that because at least I mean they don't need to
I don't think
worry
you would.
about
I don't
those
think you would be fine
crossovers.
with that because you're not fine with Spider-Man: Homecoming
I
having
just-
Tony Stark in 3 scenes.
Well, I just thought that I don't know. The Homecoming had a lot of weak script writing, in my opinion.
So good.
And it had a lot of cliches. We'll talk more about that.
But you know what it didn't have? Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, yeah. And for that, we thank you.
Pretty much. All right. Cheers.
This podcast isn't brought to you by water. It's everywhere. It's inside you right now.
Water is everywhere. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and makes up all living things.